If you're into cars, you've probably heard of the legendary Toyota 2JZ. Today on the Skid Factory, we're going to show you what's involved when it comes to building a 1200 horsepower engine.
Welcome back to the JZ Factory. We're here at Christian's shed in undisclosed locations. This is Christian from Goleby's Parts, and he is our JZ guru. So last time we hung out with Christian, we did build a 1JZ engine, and we also did a comparison between 1 and 2J and the different cylinder heads and stuff, which you might find up here. Lee's engine was a very basic street engine, especially by today's standards. It's just a basic rebuild, good tolerancing and some camshafts, and that makes a great little street car engine. This engine's not for a street car. It's for basically a special project that Woody and I have underway with a specific goal. That goal requires us to make around about 1200 horsepower at the wheels. So this is going to be what we would probably consider as a race engine by our standards. Maybe not by Christian standards, but it's up there. This is just a basic street engine.
Can't you just bolt on the T51R and away you go, man?
Well, yeah, you used to be able to just do that.
Once upon a time.
It seems like...
but we want to get more than one run out of the engine.
Yeah,
too.
that's probably the angle we're taking here. We want to build this as a reliable 1200 horsepower engine that we can use for sort of drag challenge, like endurance events, like drag racing endurance events, that sort of thing. So it's got to be basically probably a bit overbuilt, which is what we're aiming for, and that way it will survive.
Does that mean that we can make more than the target that we're going for here?
You can make whatever you want.
Okay.
Until it breaks.
Until it breaks.
Have we ordered a turbo yet or not?
No.
Not yet. So this is what will give it the best chance of surviving at that power. Anything can always go wrong, but what we've learned, these are the best bits and best ways to do it to give your engine the best chance of surviving at those levels.
So we're talking about mechanical strength here, not take all those tuning and all the other things out of the equation. We're just trying to make it mechanically the best it can be. And there's a lot of little bits and pieces involved in that. So let's get into it.
The basis for any JZ engine build starts with the block. This being a 2JZ, all the blocks start life the same casting. The GTEs just have more machining for the oil squirters, oil galleries, turbo feeds, etc. In my opinion, the 2JZ GE block is fine, especially for drag racing, roll racing. You don't need the squirters to fill your pistons like you might in hardcore circuit racing.
It's also what we had laying around under the bench.
It's basically
also what they gave me.
What we had, yeah.
I'm a big fan of the 2J GE because, like 1Js, they used to be cheap. Not so much now, but they're still probably...
It's still significantly cheaper than
a quarter of the price of a GTE, and just as capable.
So probably the biggest change that's been made to the block itself, other than just general cleaning and deburring and stuff like that, is that we're using billet main caps. Main caps are a failure point on a 2J with big power. At what power do you think that they become a problem?
So we do our 900 horsepower packages with factory caps still. Anything above that these days, I would 100% recommend billet caps. Even at 900 horsepower levels now, we see failures just from the age of caps.
There you go. That's something that wasn't a thing, but is now. Everything's getting older, and they've been used for a lot longer, and that fatigue has come in, I guess. So
20 years ago, there was way less braking caps at the same power level than what there is now. So
I do recall the Hoff braking main caps at
he lost a crank, yes.
He probably would have been, he would have been making a fair bit though back then. Next up is the crankshaft. This is a standard 2JZ GE crankshaft. As far as we're aware, there's no difference between GTE and GE cranks, and it's just a factory unit that's been prepared. You can get aftermarket crankshafts for them, but at what power level would you replace this crank with an aftermarket?
So with a 1000 horsepower engine, I feel there's zero need to replace the factory crankshaft. They do billet aftermarket ones, obviously. A billet crank is better, but at this level it's not needed, so are you just spending money? You don't have to. The only reason you would do it at this level is if you wanted a stroker for better response or spill a turbo, etc.
Connected to the crankshaft, we're going to have the rest of the rotating assembly, which is pistons, rods, etc. These are spool I-beam rods with 7/16 ARP rod bolts. So this is the 1200 horsepower package rod. There's a smaller rod or a different rod in the...
Yeah, so in our 900 horsepower packages, we just stick to the H-beam with 3/8 bolts.
3/8.
Pistons, we use the same piston in the 900 or 1200 horsepower.
They're a CP forging.
9-to-1.
9-to-1 compression. That's
1200 horsepower, we just go one size up in pins. Same deal, never go bigger than you need because you're just adding weight to your rotating assembly. So they're plenty big enough.
And bearing wise, it's just ACL race bearings, which are good Australian made parts.
It's what we've always used, never had a drama. Probably, in my opinion, the best bearing in the world you can get. So
All these parts laid out on the bench have already been prepared by Christian, ready to assemble the bottom end of the motor. The rods themselves, he has done a bit of big and little end balancing. They do come as a match set within 2 grams, but Christian's very particular about his engine building, and he chose to just balance them down to within 0.5 gram. So that's a pretty simple job. It's basically just pick the lightest one and make the other ones the same weight. So that's all been done, and we're now ready to start bolting the bottom end together. You checking?
yeah, because we put one in backwards.
Well, they got a thing. Oh, yeah.
He's more vicious than he looks, I promise.
Golby's got the bottom end assembled. Of note, we don't have a sump. We're going to use a front sump. I think we've got one at home, Alan. I'm not.
We've got most of one. We might have to buy a couple of, like a pan.
Oh, there's Lee's Toronto one, isn't there? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So of note, the GTE oil pump on the front here. You were saying something about oil pressure with the GE block.
Because you don't have the oil squirters to relieve pressure, pressure can build up behind the front seal, so we drill out the return hole. We also offer porting if you want a ported oil relief, etc.
So that's just to stop the seal from being pushed out from the front of the engine.
Yeah, more oil bleeds past the gears with more pressure, so it means more has to return to the sump, so make the hole bigger and it doesn't push the seal out.
Isn't that what Jake did? No?
Jake and friends?
Jake and friends?
Friend of Jake? We just did that to Jake's, yeah.
So we've just checked piston to valve clearance. Do you want to flip it over and show? May as well just get the top of the engine. So we were using Goleby was using a GE head gasket. We're not using a GE head gasket. We are using a GRP copper gasket because when it comes to head gaskets, Goleby, when would you change to a copper head gasket?
Factory head gasket we've used up to like, well, the Capri had 56 pounds of boost in it, factory gasket, and it raced a whole season like that. But for what you want now, a factory gasket would work, but everyone always wants more.
So that's just a reliability thing though too, isn't it? Yeah?
You don't have to change it later.
Yeah.
Otherwise you'd pull the block out, machine the grooves.
Well, I don't really plan on changing this engine. Do you, Alan? No. That'd be a you job anyway.
I don't plan on seeing it again.
So the use of the GE gasket was how thick was that? 0.8 or something, wasn't it?
So use the GE gasket is the easy way to check piston to valve. It's 0.3 of a mil. 0.3. Whereas the gasket we're going to use is 1.2. So if you assemble the head cams with your 0.3 gasket, rotate it, nothing hits, you put your 1.3 on or 1.2 and you've got an extra mil of clearance.
The other thing to note is Goleby has built plenty of these engines using all these parts, so he knows what's up. He knows that the valve reliefs in these pistons are big enough for the valves that we're using, so it's a good thing to check anyway, but you know off the top of your head, it's going to be fine, but we'll check it anyway. So, all right, so now we're ready to do head gasket, fire rings on, bolt the head on.
Yep.
Wicked. All right, let's do it. But what did you just say though? All the what in your head?
All the schmutz, the liquidy bits inside my melon, drains out while I'm sleeping and tries to drown me. And mucus. It's not pleasant. That's why I snore.
Maybe that's what's wrong with the Hoff. That's why he snores.
He must have some serious mucus. Can't snore.
Washers pick up when you forgot to say that's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. I haven't even tightened it down yet.
way. God damn it. That's the bare long motor all together now. We've just finished dialing in the camshafts. They are Kelford T202F. That's the part number, 282286 intake exhaust. We asked for big ones, but he said you'll get the ones that work. So I don't know whether
They are the bigger ones. You could nearly go the next size down, but
yeah. So we've dialed them in as per Kelford's specs, and Josh at Kelford actually had some very specific ways that he suggested we dial them in, which we won't go into because it's probably a bit too
it's
complex.
maths.
It's too much mathematics and stuff like that. But we've done it, and we did have to move them slightly, which comes down to the height of the block and the belt and stuff like that. So don't expect them just to be perfect just because the marks line up. Some tuners actually choose to just move them and see what happens, which is not really how we roll.
Not how an engine builder would do it.
It's not, yeah. Like you set the cam up to the way that the cam's being ground. That's the way that we're approaching it. So that's what's being done. It all worked out within half a degree or so. So we're happy with that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's got to get bolted onto this, obviously, after we leave here. But the engine itself is together and ready to take home and start preparing to stick it into a car. We've got a bunch of good bits. We've got a Ross Gold Series harmonic balancer that's got to go on, but we also need some covers and stuff that's got to go on first. So there's a few bits and pieces to go. We've got the Goleby's GRP cam and crank sensor kit. These engines originally have a distributor, so that's all been deleted, and that's allowed us to use GTE cams, which fit in the head but don't have a distributor drive. So we've got the oil pump with the crank sensor in it because it's out of a turbo engine, and there's also an aftermarket GRP sensor that bolts on the front of the engine there. So you've got the same sort of operation as a GTE engine would for your aftermarket ECU. So all that's got to go on. We've got very, very nice looking Plasma Man 12 injector inlet manifold, some fancy 6-boost exhaust manifold. We haven't actually decided what sort of turbo is going to go on it yet, but
Yeah, when you sending us a turbo, what's the
bit of
decision made on that?
pretty good idea what we're going to use, but it's kind of like, should we just go a little bit bigger because that'll be cool for the internet, or should we just put the one on that we know will work?
I'm sure you'll get plenty of comments on what turbo you should run.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you're going to
Come
probably
on.
talk us into like nitrous or something too, like the Hoff
Oh yeah, of
is.
course. we've got a Power Glide, so we've got to have nitrous because that's the Hoff's formula for everything. Power Glide and nitrous, whatever else just works.
If you can't tune around the wrong turbo and stuff, you use nitrous to tune around the wrong turbo.
This says the guy that's got a GTX 5020 on a 1JZ. So yeah, you know that
I'll be tuning.
he knows
around
what's
my
up.
turbo.
Where's the nitrous kit?
It's coming.
All I've ever wanted, nitrous in a Power Glide.
Nitrous and a trans brake.
We're ready to wrap our 1200 horsepower engine up in some plastic and throw it in the back of the trusty Pajero and take it back to the shed. If you're thinking about building a JZ and you need parts or you want to start with some advice, you can always contact Goleby's. They've got packages to suit various power levels. You don't need this if you don't need 1200 horsepower. Give them a call or check out the website. We've got some links below. 1J, 2J, VVT, non-VVT, NA, turbo, all of it's covered. You can get bits and pieces for all of them, and it's going to give you a good, reliable package that will do what you need it to do. We need this to have Power Glide and nitrous, so
Well,
that's what we've built.
Are we stopping at 1200 horsepower, or where's that power
Well,
figure?
you can go further if you want, but I'm pretty sure you can't come knocking on this door and saying that your engine broke.
Wait, hang on. Didn't we have a lifetime warranty with this thing? Isn't that what Goleby?
Actually, we might. It's a mates race. Mates race, lifetime warranty. Check out the links down below. Hit up Goleby's, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye. Have a great time.
welcome back to the skid factory.
No.
Alan and I have done all the hard work. Now Woody's going to come do the easy work.
No thanks.
Woody's going to come do Scott's job. Sorry, Scott.
You're allowed to say that.
This is Frank. Frank's a legend. Except when he's eating the chooks. No, he did the chooks. No.
Didn't you have something to say about 1JZs versus 2JZs?
There's nothing to say. 1J's are the OG.
What about barras?
Yuck. Yuck.
We was rolling.
Yeah.
Zoomies.
Oh!
Is that the right size or not?
Did we order big?
What's that again? A what? 55 what?
50-20.
A 50-20. Dang. Is that bigger than Guy's turbo?
Nah.
Oh.
But my engine's the better version of his.
Okay then, who's faster?
No comment.
What I want to know is how you're friends with Guy when he, for a start, had an RB. Now he's got a Barra.
It's because you're Corolla weirdos, that's why.
It's easy. He pays me to hang out with him.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only conclusion.
Hey, we're practically doing the same thing here, aren't
We
we?
do.